Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Financial First Aid. It's the podcast that helps entrepreneurs get motivated, educated, and inspired. We bring out the entrepreneur in you. Entrepreneurs hire financial first aid to set up their business, navigate their entrepreneurial journey, and have them realize their full potential as entrepreneurs. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of having Edna J. White on my podcast. She's done so many different things. I'm gonna just give you a real short, encapsulated profile of her. Her Her resume includes economic development person at NAACP. She was the president at Greater Gordon Heights Chamber of Commerce, a former advocate at the National Association of Adult Survivors of Child Abuse, a certified life coach at Second Chance Inc. What she does is empower people to live their best lives as a dedicated life coach and motivational speaker. She specializes in group, family, and team coaching with balance on with a focus on balance of stress management, trauma healing, and life fulfillment. She helps clients navigate life's challenges and achieve their goals. Through personalized coaching sessions, she's been able to guide her clients, groups, families, and teams to prioritize their self-care, cultivate mindfulness, physical well-being, emotional balance, and authenticity. She helps heal from stress and trauma. She develops strategies to release emotional burdens and find inner peace, master time management so they can optimize their productivity and reduce stress, strengthen their relationships by building strong connections, starting with yourself, which is a great idea, then with loved ones. It's the whole idea behind put the face mask on yourself first, then you can help other people. And then
Absolutely.
last but not least, she helps people overcome mindset and balance obstacles to develop resilience and a positive, purposeful mindset. That's a lot, and I know you do it all, and you do it well.
I'm shocked at you. I'm going to give you like a hand clap right now.
Hey, listen,
That was great. That was really great.
you do it all, you know. Now, I'm not
Thank
sure
you.
exactly which business is the business that you really are working in now because you've done so
Okay.
many things. And
Yeah.
in addition to what you do, but what's
Yeah.
the primary focus and the name of your specific
Okay.
company?
Okay. So all the things that you did mention are the things I did. I'm a president, and that's volunteerism.
Okay.
NAACP is volunteerism, but my
Mm-hmm.
main business is Second Chance Incorporated, where we work with individuals and groups and families, and also in businesses. Like
Mm-hmm.
so, with employees,
Mm-hmm.
we offer workshops, presentations, all for the betterment and sometimes stress,
Mm-hmm.
work related things. So it's all for the betterment of that group.
That's great. That's great.
Mhm.
And that's the primary focus of your
Right.
business job. Okay, great.
Yes.
Um, so what kind of motivated you to start your journey of entrepreneurism? I know the story, but I want my audience to know. I know how you did it.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell you, I was raised in the South by my great grandparents, not my grandparents, but great grandparents who
Wow.
were freed slaves. So
Oh,
my
wow.
mom was actually given to her grandparents by her mom, and she lived with them. And so when
Yeah.
I came along, my
Mm-hmm.
mom was trying to get work or whatever, and so I was babysat by them and
Mm-hmm.
cared for by them. So they had their own house, their own land, and they had their own like I don't know what it's called, but they farm. They were farmers,
Mm-hmm.
so they should take their food and everything to the market and sell it. So I didn't know what that was. I had no idea until I got older. I was had the the I was born with or had the inclination of entrepreneurship. I used to see
Yes.
them do it all
Right.
day. Killing I didn't see them kill the chickens and all those things, but I saw them like kind of getting prepared and everything. And then the fruits and vegetables, they did all that stuff. They had workers with them.
Wow.
And I saw that, and they were living comfortably. I never heard them complain. I didn't know what it was.
Right.
until I got older, I understood it was entrepreneurship. And they were
Yes.
the first ones in their town to have that. So
Yes.
I knew that I saw that and it was ingrained in me.
Mm,
So I even
wonderful.
tried to go to work, make that check. You know how you do, you make that check, you get that check, and it wasn't enough. Every time I looked at it, I was like, this guy's getting something better. Got to be something better, right? You know
Yeah.
how you feel, and that's how I felt as having that entrepreneurial spirit in me. And I
Mm-hmm.
kept looking. There's got to be something better. No matter how many hours I did, got to be something better. When I heard the supervisors of my job making me stay and making me shirk the responsibility of going to get my children and being with my children, I said, there's got to be something better.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Mm-hmm.
was. And I
Mm-hmm.
started my first business. I became a real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
I was an independent contractor. So once I got the taste of that, I was like, okay, I could do this.
Yep. I can do this. Yep.
I could do
That's
this.
the whole thing. Like to get the belief that you can do this.
Yes, yes, and that's what you really need. And that's because it had to take place. I'm gonna tell you when I was because I worked until I was about 29 in there,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I
Well, now
had to
when
get
you
the
say you work,
mindset.
when you say
I'm
you
sorry.
work, when you say you work, you mean you work like
I
a regular
worked
nine
for
to five.
someone else
Exactly. Right. Right.
until I
Mm-hmm.
was about 29. So I was about
Okay.
29,
Mm-hmm.
and when I transitioned to a real estate agent, and I was
Mm-hmm.
working as an independent contractor, but under the
Right.
broker, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had to turn that mindset off from the employee time,
Right.
because you can't keep an employee mindset
Right.
when you want to work for yourself. It
Yep.
just
That's right.
doesn't work,
No, it
because you're
doesn't.
going to do everything to please that he's not even my supervisor or anything.
Right.
There was a mindset that I served that person,
Right.
and that has to be switched off when you come. That's really what you do when you're an employee. You
Right.
have to serve that person, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever goal it is at that workplace. You serve that. But when
Right.
you become an entrepreneur, you have to now take the skills that you have and
Mm-hmm.
really serve in a different capacity.
Mm-hmm.
See,
Absolutely.
when I started, I had all the makings of an entrepreneur. I literally was the first person in the office to have an assistant. He's at my office, and I was new at real estate. I was like, I'm not doing that work. I was hiring my sisters to do all the tasks, making the calls, everything, and I was out in the field. So I
Right.
had all the makings. What I
Right.
didn't have, and I was making a lot of money. What I didn't have was the sense to say, I got a $10,000 check, but I had a $20,000 check, but I had to give half of that to the broker.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And so I was like, so not until and I did a lot of work. I did a lot of soul searching, a lot of work, and it's inner work, because I had to change my mindset about money,
Right.
because I really was caught. I was caught in the middle of that. Like, I was like, well, if I go somewhere else, they're not going to really pay me. Or if I go on my own, it's going to take me forever. I had all those employee questions,
Right. Right. Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Well, that was great because then when you came to the realization that, hey, I can do something better and
Yeah.
I can do this. What did
Mhm.
you do to make that transition?
So I'm telling you, a lot of it was education. I went to the library.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I read, you want to do something, you got to learn about it.
Exactly.
So entrepreneurship was something I had no idea about.
Okay.
So I went to the library every chance I got,
Uh-huh.
and I read every book. I followed every person that was successful at doing it, and I read it. I got the mindset. I empowered myself. I
Mm-hmm.
really empowered myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I
Mm-hmm.
really did. It's a lot of that was the first step, is educating myself what entrepreneurship really was.
That's great. That's great. That's fantastic. And it's
Hmm.
funny because you say you went to the library.
Yeah.
Now, people can just click a button
Yes,
and get
exactly.
that information. You know what I mean? It's like
Yes.
you almost have no excuse not to be an entrepreneur if that's what you want to do.
Right. If that's what you want to do.
A lot of people are very comfortable with their 9 to 5 because, hey, you know
Right.
what? I'm getting this paycheck every week. I don't have to worry about managing people. I don't have to worry about
Right.
the bottom line for income, for all these different things. But what made you continue that journey? Because, I know that you had a bunch of disappointments and
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of
Oh
people
yeah.
were discouraging you. And, you have
Sure.
those people that are well-meaning. I mean, I'm not saying that they don't mean well,
Right.
but what was it that made you say, I'm not going back to that 9 to 5? I'm going to handle this my way once you
Well,
got
I'm gonna tell
educated?
you, what really helped me is to hear other people's stories about all that they were going through. But
Uh-huh.
I went back to work late in life. I went
Uh-huh.
back for about 4 years.
Uh-huh.
And but what got me out, what kept me out from before, and what changed. And I'll tell you, what kept me out in the beginning was I could make more money
Right. Right.
than I could under someone else, and I had the freedom. But here's the kicker for me was the freedom to go
Mm-hmm.
get my kids, to leave the
Mm-hmm.
office. This is my office. I can lock the door, hire who I want, fire who I want, and I can go take care of my family, be with my family. That's what I really wanted. When I became my own broker, once I left being under that broker, I took the test.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even study for it. I was like, I want to be a broker. And I went down to Manhattan, right on right on the main, right ground zero, right next to ground zero. Went right there, took the test, waited in this sweaty office because the air conditioning had cut off. I'm sitting
No.
there dying, waiting, and I passed. I got a 96. Never will forget it. And I was like, oh gosh, what am I going to do with this now? Now I done did this. Had no other plan what to do. Like, we're in the
Right.
office because I know he's not going to want an associate. Another no competition. It's not going to want
Right.
that.
Right.
It's something they decide in office. So of course that happened. He was upset. He's like, well, I can't keep you here because I have one associate, a broker. I don't need another one. So I said, okay, that's all right. And so I have no idea where I was going. Figured it out. Did it.
Did
But
you
what kept
even
me
did
is
you
that
did you
I
even
had
tell him
freedom.
that you did you even tell him you were going to take the brokerage
No, it
exam?
was something I just woke up one morning. I'm telling
Okay.
you, I woke up one morning and I said it to myself. And then I found out where to go to take the tests, right?
Huh?
Found out it was just random. It was just a random thing. And then I just drove. I drove to the train station, got on the train, and did it. It wasn't
Okay.
even, it was just like
Okay.
that. It would just happen just like that.
You just
And
did.
I was like, now what am I going to do? Now I passed because that's a state regulated
Right.
certification. So once you
Exactly.
do that, it automatically goes in the machine. Before I got back to Long Island, he already knew.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He already knew. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, he calls me in the office. He's like screaming. He was a screamer. He was a loud talker. And so I'm sitting there listening to him, and I'm almost feeling hallelujah. That's how I was feeling, like, hallelujah. I'm feeling pretty good. So as he's freaking out, and I'm saying, you know what? You're right. This is not going to work out. I quit and I
Okay.
left. I just got my things. My sister was actually upstairs working for me, like making my calls and everything. And I packed her up, and packed my stuff up, and I left. And I was like, okay, got to make a plan.
Uh-huh.
But I think the freedom of me can do
Right.
anything I want.
Right.
When I
Mm-hmm.
worked for other people, I had no social life, couldn't see my family, couldn't care for my family the way I
Right.
wanted to.
Right. Right.
And I had no social life. And I was a talker, a social butterfly. I was like, this is not gonna work. It wasn't gonna work. I was always working for them, and they were taking. So even when I was working for them, I would have this great idea, like super idea. Either was squashed down, or was taken. It
Okay.
was never my own. When you're
Right.
in your own business, you're an entrepreneur, you can create, and
Right.
it's your own. You
Yes.
can develop, you can, put things out there, ideas, and see them come to fruition. It's your own. You're never
Mm-hmm.
squashed when you're an entrepreneur because you can go for the gusto. There's no ceiling.
Excellent. That's right. That's right.
There's no
That's
ceiling.
great. So
Yes.
what once you figured it, out and decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do,
Right.
what was your, kind of impetus to say, okay, now I got to get a plan. Now that I got a
Hmm.
plan, what do I do next? Like what were the steps that you took to get to where you are now?
So I had to sit my behind down.
You had to stop and think, huh?
I had to sit my behind down and think and write things out
Good.
because I see
Good.
a lot as now in this part of my life, all what I did before just migrated into my life purpose strategies. So
Mm-hmm.
it's what I do now is I am a strategist. I
Mm-hmm.
can help anyone in any field, right?
Right.
So what I did, I had to sit down. I had to sit down because when you get all these ideas, it's popping all over. You ever hear? I know you heard it. Like I got all these ideas. What I'm gonna do? Yeah,
Yeah.
but they're really just ideas until you put them on paper.
Yes.
Then it becomes a
Yeah.
plan.
Yes. Then it becomes a
Becomes a
plan,
plan.
actually.
So I had to create a plan because being up in here with all those ideas floating around, nothing will ever be ever be fixed in not concrete but set, so
Right.
that you can execute it.
Right.
So that's what I did. Is I sat my butt down and I executed a plan. You
Nice.
know,
Nice. What piece of advice would you give, a new or an upstart or maybe even an existing entrepreneur or business person right now
Mhm.
that could really kind of help them in their journey?
What I'm going to tell you is don't listen to everybody.
Okay.
I know it's not what you want to hear, but what I mean by that is you're a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
You're a
Mm-hmm.
brand. You're special. You're unique.
Mm-hmm.
What we tend to get into is becoming commercialized, like every other person that's there. So if there's real estate agents, and I did it. When I became a real estate agent, said get you a nice car, get you some nice clothes, and you got it made. No, you don't. You got to do some work, right? So take away the commercialism. Go back to what did you start this business? Why did you start this business?
Okay. Okay.
Why? Go
Mm-hmm.
back to that why, and then it'll line up with your passion and it'll
Okay.
spark flames.
Wow.
What we do
Nice.
is we look at all the stuff that's out there, all the new shiny stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
All that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at this one's doing that. Let me do it. This one's doing
Mm-hmm.
that. Let me do it. This one's
Mm-hmm.
doing that. Let me do it. You can do it, but do it the way you do it. Stay authentic. Stay who you are.
Right.
When you start putting on all those masks and all of that and competing with other people, you lose your way. And
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to get back and take all that off,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to get back to that place.
Right.
So I would say just, be yourself, be who you are and why you came to do this in the
Right.
beginning.
Right, exactly. That's good. That's good advice. I know you're also a big promoter of mindset. What
Yeah.
would you say to a new entrepreneur or even an existing entrepreneur with regard to the mindset piece? I love it when you said earlier, you said, oh, I was still thinking like an employee, even
Yep.
though I was starting my journey to become an employer,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
start my own business or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
What would you say towards that particular subject? Because mindset is powerful.
I'm gonna tell you here's my whole secret, and that's why I'm always hyper because I
That's
act like a
okay.
CEO of my business. I
Uh-huh.
don't want to. I don't want the business to run me. So
Hmm.
meaning delegate, act like a CEO. If you
Hmm.
need somebody to do your social media, figure
Hmm.
out get somebody.
Right.
You don't need to do it. If you
Right.
need somebody to write letters, send emails, do phone calls, get someone to do it.
Right. Right. You were even
Delegate.
doing that because you said you had your sister doing that stuff even when you weren't an
Yes.
employee.
Right.
So you had
Did
already
I know I
started
was
that.
doing that? Did I
Right.
know that I
Right.
was lending to the economic development of the world? Absolutely had no idea.
Right.
I just knew it was easier. but it made me easier to go out and make and find those houses that were $1 million. That
Mm-hmm.
was, all those developers. It was easier for me to go do what I really came to do. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the most important part. What are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
What is your role? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times when I talk to people, they don't know their own roles. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you're the CEO. What does the CEO do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then, whether you're a nonprofit or a profit, you still got to make money.
Right. Exactly. Right. At the end
You
of the
still
day,
have to
that's what
make
you have to do.
money.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yep.
it.
Yep.
So if you're not making money, all you're doing is you're just walking in circles, just
Mm-hmm.
walking
Mm-hmm.
in circles.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make money. So you got to be able to, I'm the CEO. The CEO makes those decisions that keeps me connected to all the business. And
Nice.
if I'm not doing that, then I'm not the CEO. I'm the employee.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think you were pointing out. Don't
Yeah.
have the business run you, you run the business.
Yes. You
Mm-hmm.
run the
Mm-hmm.
business. That's
Yep,
right.
exactly. I love it because my husband always says, stay in your lane. And I think yeah, he does.
It's
He always says that.
true.
So
It's true.
I love your idea of saying, hey, listen, delegate this and delegate that because you don't want to do it. And not only that, it's not getting you further along in
No,
the thing that
no.
you want to do, which is like you said, make the money so that you can pay
Right.
all the people who are doing all the stuff for you.
Exactly.
So, in hindsight, now that you're where you are in your
Yeah.
all of the accomplishments that you've done,
Mhm.
what do you think you might have done differently than what you've already done?
I would have kept to my systems. Okay, so
Okay.
when I love systems.
Okay.
Systems keep everything where they in,
Organized.
as your husband said, in the
In the
lanes.
lane. Right. Okay.
Right? And it kept systems kept me in my lane.
Hmm.
They still keep me in my lane. I got off task. And I'll
Hmm.
tell you why. A lot of us we love to give and help people.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that at all. But there has to be a system in place for that. You don't
Right.
see TD Bank just, somebody walks up to them and say, hey, I need you to donate to X, Y, and Z. Okay. You don't see them doing that, right? No. Let me take this back to my team and we'll talk about it and we'll give you a decision. That's a system,
Right. Right.
right?
Hmm.
So we don't have systems in place. We tend to get not we get out of place. So I set up systems, and systems means I set up when I'm going to post, or when my team is going to post,
Hmm.
how I'm going to hire them. I set all of that up so that you know everything runs smoothly. Like, so
Hmm.
when I'm supposed to do my taxes or call my 990 in, all that the phone is just not for taking pictures, it's for reminding you of things, right?
Yes.
So
Uh-huh.
you're much better at what you're doing.
Right.
So a
Right.
system means if it works for you. So if you say to me, Edna, you posting all the time doesn't really work well for me. I know I like sending out the old proverbial snail mail. Send out a postcard to people and I get some people back. Whatever works for you, keep that system in place.
Okay.
Whatever works for you, keep it in place. If it
Nice.
goes away, yes, you're not going to be able to use it. But if it's still effective, keep it in place. Keep your systems in place on how to have residual income. That's
Right.
that's doing this when you're
Hmm.
just sitting.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I like that. That's great.
Hmm.
You were saying a few minutes ago you went back to work for like 4 years. What happened that
Yes.
caused that?
So I went back to work, and I went back to work, and I not that I was looking because I liked what I was doing. Nothing. So I was in the hiatus of trying to figure out where I'm going next,
Okay.
in my business and my
That
life. Because I had
that made
just,
sense. That made
yeah.
sense.
So
Hmm.
it was just when I established the LLC
Hmm.
and all of that. And I'm just trying to figure out where I'm supposed to go, what direction, all of that. And so somebody called me and said, hey, somebody recommended you for this job because they need somebody to do what you do. and which was real estate. I was a real estate liaison for the community. So I said, "Oh, that'll be great." I said, "Okay, God." I'm talking to God. No, God ain't answering me back. So don't guys, don't. God didn't tell me this. Okay, God didn't tell me this. Just so you know. And so I said, "Oh God, I guess this might be like a direction you want me to go in." Now I ain't suss it out, but here's what, in hindsight, what I thought about is that I needed to be doing something, right? Instead of, and I overrode what God was telling me, sit still. And I was like, I need to make money because I need to. At the time, I was staying with mother. I was like, I got to get out of there. Desperation was pushing me towards this.
That's what'll happen sometime. Yeah.
Okay, so desperation is what pushed me into this position. Now, I go to the interview. First of all, I was late, and I knew where the place was, and I don't know how I got lost. I'm telling you, I knew that was one sign that I shouldn't have been there, right?
That was sign
the second sign when I got there, the lady was rude, and we had a whole argument because I'm not going to let you talk to me any kind of way. And I was like, hey, I don't need this job. You guys need me. And so I was walking out, and they kind of, oh, no, come back in, whatever. That was number 2. All right. The third one was in the interview room. They asked me a question. Would you rent I know it's not part of your, what is it? I know it's not part of your values. Mm-hmm. That's what she said. But would you rent a basement apartment if we told you to? That was my third.
Okay.
And I said, no, you could do what you want, but I'm not doing it. I said, I have a license to maintain and integrity to keep. And that's not one of the things I'm going to do. So if you want a yes person, I'm not the one. Okay. Still talking to the associate. Was like, yeah, no, I really like her. I think she'll do good. Now, when I get in there, they don't know what to do with me. Now I got I'm telling you, I had to create my job because they didn't have the title to give me, didn't know what my job was. I created the whole entire job.
Okay.
And I'm saying, God, I'm serious. Oh my God, is this like really a test? Like, I literally was good for 3 years.
So you created that job, and then how did you even last the whole 3 years?
I lasted 4 years.
Oh, 4 years. Okay.
4 years because I was out in the field. I was working with legislators, and I saw a lot of toxicity going on. And I want to tell you, sisters and brothers, you cannot live in toxicity. No matter how clean you are, you're going to get just as dirty as they are.
It was in the workplace.
It started to affect me.
In the building itself, when you were in the office, you were feeling that?
Oh, I was feeling it. I was feeling. I think the management. I don't think the management was so dysfunctional and so emotionally unintelligent. That they were, and they were really ignorant. They were really ignorant to the housing industry, but yet they were a homeless agency helping to house people. That's how ignorant they were.
Oh wow,
it was bad. Yeah, it's bad. It was pretty bad, and the racism, I had to address that, So what I could say, I know God didn't assign me there.
I don't know. Maybe he did.
I felt that I could make some changes there, but I quickly got out of it because I was like, okay, I started feeling it in my body, and I started to getting headaches, which I never had in my life. And so it was affecting me. So toxicity, no matter how it is, I don't care. You saved, unsaved, you're yogi, it don't matter. Get out. Get out.
Yes, get out. You're absolutely right.
You. Stress is a major killer. Let me tell you. And when I went to the doctors and I said, I'm really not handling this well. And he says, you know what? He says, I've known you for a long time, Edna. You don't fuss. You're laughing about everything. You take the good side of things. He says, it might be time for you to go. And I had to go.
But I still wonder if maybe God put you there to help that situation, to make it better.
Yeah, I think I believe so because he, even though it may not be the route we're supposed to go, it's still we got to make that route good.
Right.
And I always say when I go into a position, any position, anywhere I go, I got to make it better than I received it.
Yep.
And that's what I
Yep.
did.
Yep.
I
I
made it
think you
better
did
than I
have
received it. They can't even find somebody to replace me.
that.
That's how, and see, that's how you know you're destined to create something bigger than working
Yep.
for somebody else,
Yep.
because they
Absolutely.
can't even replace you. They can't even replace you. They
Yep.
can't. They can't.
I think a good way to say what you were saying earlier is you were saying about you see this person doing this and that person doing this and you
Yeah.
want to follow that. But I think
Yeah.
if people embrace their own uniqueness and their own
Yes.
authenticity, I think
Yep.
that would produce something that's much greater than trying to be like everybody else.
That is correct.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
you do you allow God to form you the way he wants to
Yep.
form you.
Yep.
You allow that. When you're conforming, you're not
Mhm.
formed by God. That's just it. It's just it.
That's
I'm
nice.
telling you, I'm so happy. And let me tell you, I've had my moments of financial discord. I
Right.
really have.
Right.
It's a challenge. The first
Yes.
several years, it's a challenge.
Yes.
But again, when I left that position, I had saved up so much money I could live on 3 years. I lived on three
Wow.
years. That's how
Nice.
much money I saved up. I was tucking things away. I didn't really need it, and I was
Right.
tucking it away. And when I had 3 years worth of saved money that I could dig into my business and really work into it and stay in
Nice.
that business.
Nice. That's good. That's real
Yeah.
good. So I always end my podcast with these three things. What
Okay.
can you tell my listeners that would
Okay.
educate, motivate, and inspire them?
Educate, motivate, and inspire them.
Now, the first thing that you said in the beginning was
Yeah.
before I went in to become an entrepreneur, I educated myself.
Oh yeah.
I think that's
Definitely.
a great piece of advice.
Definitely. Definitely. Is educate yourself. If you're going into
Any business.
any business, any type of business, first
Yep.
educate yourself on who you're going to be. An entrepreneur, what your role is, know that. And then what you're up against. If you're I don't know, making cookies, let's say cookies. Who in the neighborhood is making cookies? How do their cookies taste? Educate yourself, research.
Right.
I
Right.
can't imagine KFC go into a town and saying, "Oh, I'll just put my restaurant next to." Oh, wait, right next to this other chicken factory here.
Right. Right. Right.
Do your due diligence. Do your work. Educate yourself on what you're up against. You're not up against, even though you're unique. Know who the people your competitors are. Know what
Yes.
they're doing.
Yes.
And then bring out the uniqueness in you.
That's
That's
good.
just
I
it.
like that. And then how about motivate?
Motivate, stay focused. Don't look at the shiny things. No shiny
Okay.
things.
Okay.
Stay away from all the shiny things that's going to promise you, $10 and $20,000. Stay away from it. Don't go into the light. Don't do it.
Stay away from the light. I like that. In other words, if you're going to be motivated, don't be motivated by the person that's telling you, "Oh yeah, you can
Yes.
make $10,000 in
Yes.
1 month, and then
Yes.
it's going to
Stay
be
on
a
the
piece of
course.
cake."
Stay on the course.
Oh, and then how about inspire? I think you're an inspiration by yourself, but
I will tell you, um, I know that we're all destined to create. We have a
nice.
creative side in us.
Uh-huh.
And when we embrace that creative side, we'll be able to really flourish.
Oh,
And,
nice.
we will grow into something. It could be just a postcard, you
Mm.
know, but whatever it is, we can really flourish, because that's how the world was created. Is all the Hallmark was not started big like it was, it
Like it
started
is
from one
now,
little
right?
postcard.
Right, exactly. Yes, indeed.
That's it. So
That's
that's
beautiful.
what we're doing, and we're creating lineage. When we come out of the job, and I know plenty of people on jobs now, and I don't want to insult them, but be inspired to say, that's just another way of holding me back.
Uh-huh.
That's just
Uh-huh.
another way of holding me back. But if you were to step out on your own and do your own, you would see that you're so full of creativity. Everything will start to happen. It will. It
Nice.
will.
Nice, very good. How can my audience get in touch with you, Miss Edna? Which are all the different ways?
Well, you can, well, one place you can go is www.ednawhite.com, and everything's there. All my social
Okay.
media, all my books, all my courses, everything's there.
Okay. Edna White or Edna J White? Just Edna
Edna
White?
White,
Edna
Edna
White.
White,
Okay.
EDNAWHITE.com.
Nice. Okay, that's great then, and that's where I will tell them all to go to
All
see what you
right.
have. Yeah, because you've got lots of stuff to offer and lots of stuff going on, and I love the coaching piece because people
Yes.
really can use what you have to offer, and it's
Yes.
so
Thank
good.
you.
So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being on my
Thank you. It was
podcast.
really fun. It was so much fun to be on here. Thank you
Good,
so
good, good.
much.
And I look forward to getting this out and published so everybody can see it.
Okay. Awesome.